Hello MotoGP enthusiasts. Welcome back to ZNGP Today. Gigi Dall'Igna characterized Silverstone as a sobering reminder of MotoGP's unforgiving competitiveness, admitting Ducati were never really in the running. Across the weekend, the factory squad, reigning champions and accustomed to dictating terms, found themselves outpaced by Aprilia in every session. His reflections framed the British Grand Prix not as a disaster, but as a necessary wake-up call, a weekend that underlined the importance of resilience, adaptability, and the ability to respond to setbacks in a championship where margins are razor-thin. Alex Márquez left Silverstone with cautious optimism, despite Ducati being comprehensively outpaced by Aprilia across the weekend. For him, the British Grand Prix was less a sign of Ducati's decline and more a reminder of how circuit characteristics can magnify differences between manufacturers. He argued that Ducati is steadily narrowing the margin to Aprilia, pointing to recent wins and ongoing development as proof of progress. Andrea Dovizioso's reflections after Silverstone were both analytical and cautionary, blending praise for Aprilia's dominance with reminders that MotoGP's balance of power can shift quickly. He highlighted Marc Márquez's leadership qualities, insisted Ducati's deficit is smaller than it appeared, and warned Aprilia against complacency as circuits like Aragon loom on the calendar. His perspective carried the weight of experience, a rider who has battled Márquez at his peak and understands the subtleties of championship dynamics. Don't forget to click subscribe button and the bell icon for MotoGP news update. Dall'Igna's tone was pragmatic rather than alarmist. He acknowledged the weekend was lackluster, but insisted it was not catastrophic. Ducati must draw the necessary conclusions and move forward, treating Silverstone as a lesson rather than a crisis. The general manager emphasized that the team must recapture the spirit and intensity that carried them through the first half of the season, while recognizing that every manufacturer will encounter rough patches in a campaign of this depth. We were never really in the running. His words reflect Ducati's philosophy: accept reality, avoid excuses, and focus on preparation for the next opportunity. In a season where 12 different winners have emerged in 12 races, consistency and adaptability matter more than dominance. Ducati's struggles were visible across the board: qualifying, sprint, and Grand Prix. Riders lacked the right feel for the bike, particularly in Silverstone's flowing corners, and could not extract competitive pace. Tire behavior compounded the problem, with Ducati unable to manage degradation as effectively as Aprilia. Marc Márquez's sprint collapse and Pecco Bagnaya's crash highlighted how fragile Ducati's grip and balance were at this circuit. Setup compromises and tire interaction left Ducati unable to fight at the front. Silverstone's layout has historically been a difficult venue for Ducati, exposing weaknesses in flowing sections where Aprilia thrives. The weekend reinforced that circuit DNA can magnify small deficits into decisive gaps. Despite the overall disappointment, Dall'Igna highlighted positives. Alex Márquez was the standout Ducati rider, showing podium potential before a mid-race mistake cost him. Fabio Di Giannantonio continued his strong season with valuable points, reinforcing his consistency. Bagnaya's struggles were contextualized by his recent forearm surgery, while Marc Márquez's 7th place was framed as a realistic outcome given his shoulder recovery and Silverstone's demands. Individual resilience and points provide a foundation for recovery. Even in a difficult weekend, Ducati riders demonstrated flashes of competitiveness. These performances suggest the package is not fundamentally broken, but requires refinement and adaptation. Dall'Igna's message was clear: Ducati must treat Silverstone as a diagnostic exercise. Telemetry, setup comparisons, and tire data will be scrutinized to understand why Aprilia managed conditions better. The priority is to restore the momentum seen before the summer break, ensuring Ducati are ready to capitalize when circuits swing back in their favor. Short-term focus, refine setup, improve tire management, and rebuild confidence. With Aragon and Misano ahead, circuits traditionally favorable to Ducati, the team has an immediate opportunity to rebound. Preparation and adaptability will determine whether Silverstone becomes a blip or a turning point. The British GP reinforced the unpredictability of the 2026 season. Raul Fernandez's victory made him the 12th different winner in 12 races, while Aprilia's sweep of qualifying, sprint, and Grand Prix confirmed their strength. Jorge Martin extended his lead to 31 points, with Marco Bezzecchi and Ai Ogura close behind, and Marc Márquez now 40 points adrift. For Ducati, the challenge is not just Aprilia's pace but the depth of competition across the grid. MotoGP 2026 is defined by variety and unpredictability. Consistency will decide the title. Ducati must balance ambition with realism. The championship is wide open, but only those who adapt quickly to each circuit's demands will remain in contention. Silverstone was a reality check for Ducati, exposing weaknesses in tire management and setup while highlighting Aprilia's strengths. Dall'Igna's tone was measured, acknowledged the deficit, learned from it, and prepared to strike back at circuits that suit Ducati's DNA. With Aragon looming, a track where Marc Márquez and Ducati have historically excelled, the next rounds will test whether Ducati can convert lessons into renewed competitiveness. In a season where every race has produced a different winner, the ability to respond decisively to setbacks may prove the ultimate championship weapon. Alex finished as the leading Ducati in 4th place, a result that underscored both his consistency and Ducati's resilience. He acknowledged that Aprilia's sweep of qualifying, the sprint, and the Grand Prix was decisive, but insisted that Ducati's performance was not disastrous. Instead, he viewed the weekend as a continuation of Ducati's upward trajectory, noting that the gap to Aprilia is smaller now than it was at the start of the season. "I think we are getting closer and closer." For Alex, finishing as the top Ducati rider was a morale boost, showing that even on a track that heavily favored Aprilia, Ducati could still remain competitive in the upper midfield. Alex explained that Silverstone's long, flowing corners and high-speed transitions naturally suit Aprilia's RSGP, a bike renowned for its agility and cornering stability. Aprilia's dominance was therefore expected, and Ducati's relative struggle was not a surprise. He stressed that this was a track-specific issue rather than a fundamental weakness in Ducati's package. Circuit DNA amplified Aprilia's advantage rather than exposing a sudden Ducati failure. Aprilia's ability to carry speed through Silverstone's fast sections made them untouchable, but Alex believes Ducati will regain ground at circuits where braking stability and acceleration matter more. Ducati's form before the summer break supports Alex's optimism. Marc Márquez delivered 3 wins in 4 races, Fabio Di Giannantonio triumphed in Catalonia, and Alex himself claimed victory in Spain. These results demonstrate that Ducati can win consistently when conditions suit them. Alex emphasized that the team is learning more about the bike's strengths and weaknesses, and that incremental setup improvements are paying off. Incremental steps and better understanding of the bike are narrowing the margin. Ducati's engineers have focused on refining electronics, tire management, and chassis balance, areas that have already yielded measurable gains compared to early 2026. Alex framed Silverstone as a constructive weekend rather than a disappointment. Being the leading Ducati reinforced his confidence in the package, and he praised the team's collective effort to keep improving. He highlighted Aragon as the next major test, a circuit where Ducati has historically excelled, and where Marc Márquez has delivered back-to-back wins. For Alex, Aragon represents a chance to convert Ducati's progress into podiums and potentially victories. "We are doing a really great job inside Ducati, and every time, compared to the beginning of the year, we improve a lot the bike." Ducati's morale remains high, with riders and engineers united in their belief that the gap to Aprilia is shrinking and that the championship fight is still wide open. While Silverstone widened Jorge Martin's lead, Alex stressed that the championship remains unpredictable. Aprilia's strength is undeniable, but Ducati's ability to win across multiple riders shows depth and resilience. For Alex, the key is consistency, extracting maximum points at circuits where Ducati is strong and minimizing damage at tracks like Silverstone. The title fight is still alive, but Ducati must capitalize on favorable circuits. With Aragon, Misano, and overseas rounds ahead, Ducati has opportunities to reassert itself and close the gap in the standings. Alex Márquez views Silverstone as a track-specific setback rather than a broader decline. Ducati's trajectory, marked by recent victories and steady development, points toward closing the gap with Aprilia. The team's focus now shifts to Aragon, a venue where Ducati's strengths align perfectly with the circuit's demands. For Alex, the message is clear: Ducati is improving, the margin is shrinking, and the championship remains within reach if they continue to build on their progress. Dovizioso stressed that Silverstone is a unique circuit, with its wide layout, long corners, and relentless demands on grip and stability. Aprilia's RSGP thrives in such conditions, which magnified their advantage. Yet he argued this was not a definitive snapshot of the season's balance. Ducati's Alex Márquez nearly reached the podium, showing that the gap was not insurmountable. For Dovizioso, Silverstone reaffirmed Aprilia's superiority on certain tracks but did not prove they are untouchable. Silverstone has reaffirmed this year's track performance. That is to say, an Aprilia slightly superior to the Ducati. Aprilia's clean sweep, qualifying, sprint, and Grand Prix, was impressive, but Dovizioso reminded listeners that MotoGP is a championship of contrasts. Circuits like Sachsenring and Aragon can flip the script entirely. Dovizioso devoted significant attention to Márquez's role within Ducati. He described him not just as a fast rider but as a true leader, someone who studies, prepares, and deliberately shapes the environment around him. Márquez's influence extends beyond lap times. He instills confidence in engineers, mechanics, and teammates. Dovizioso contrasted this with Ducati's earlier perception of Márquez, suggesting they are only now fully appreciating the depth of his leadership. Márquez's leadership is deliberate, studied, and transformative, talent fused with preparation. Having raced against Márquez during his Honda years, Dovizioso knows firsthand how his methodical approach underpins his success. Ducati, he argued, is only beginning to grasp the full extent of what Márquez brings. While Aprilia dominated Silverstone, Dovizioso insisted the underlying gap is modest. Ducati riders were competitive, and small differences in grip management or race execution widened the results more than raw performance did. He pointed to Alex Márquez's ability to manage tires as evidence that Ducati can match Aprilia when conditions align. Silverstone exaggerated Aprilia's edge. Ducati remains close in overall performance. This nuance matters. Aprilia's consistency at the front is undeniable, but Ducati's package is not far behind. The championship remains finely balanced. Dovizioso praised Marco Bezzecchi's resilience, noting his 2 podiums at Silverstone after a season marred by DNFs and injuries. For him, Bezzecchi's achievement was less about points and more about mentality, proving to himself he could still fight at the front. That psychological boost, Dovizioso argued, is crucial in a championship where confidence often dictates results. Mental recovery and resilience are as decisive as technical performance. Bezzecchi's podiums were symbolic, a rider rediscovering belief, which can fuel stronger performances in upcoming rounds. Dovizioso urged Aprilia to maximize points during favorable weekends, because circuits like Aragon could swing momentum back to Ducati and Márquez. He sees the title fight as fluid, with different tracks suiting different manufacturers. Aprilia must convert dominance into championship leverage now, while Ducati must target their strongholds to claw back ground. Championship swings are inevitable. Success depends on exploiting strengths at the right circuits. Aragon, Misano, and overseas rounds will test whether Ducati can rebound and whether Aprilia can sustain their edge. Andrea Dovizioso's analysis is pragmatic and rooted in experience. Silverstone confirmed Aprilia's superiority on flowing tracks, but it did not settle the championship. Ducati's deficit is smaller than results suggest, and Marc Márquez's leadership is a decisive asset that Ducati is only now fully recognizing. Bezzecchi's resurgence adds another layer to the fight. The coming rounds will determine whether Aprilia can turn dominance into sustained advantage, or whether Ducati and Márquez will strike back at circuits that suit their strengths. In Dovizioso's view, the championship remains wide open, defined not by one weekend, but by the ability to adapt and attack when opportunity arises. Thanks for watching ZNGP Today, and this is your MotoGP news update. And see you next time!